All right, I'm back. We're gonna try this again. Let's see if anybody can join us live. What up, y'all? Sorry, always working. Okay. What up? I'm just checking in from the Benzinga Cannabis Capital conference. Today was the last day of the conference for the cannabis portion. I'm staying through till to go to the psychedelic version. So I'm so excited about that. Um, let's see. So that should be interesting. So this year's cannabis capital conference, which really is mostly for investors, it was interesting. It was a little bit different than last year, to say the least. It was bigger, so that was good. You know, I feel like I got to network with a lot more people, probably during the actual conference. I still have the after party tonight, which I'm going to push myself to go to. I'm tired, so I don't really want to go, but you know, you kind of sometimes you just got to push yourself. Last night I set out the after party because I was so exhausted, but I'll be going to the one tonight that they're having. So yeah. So that should be interesting. Um, it's interesting. I didn't see a whole lot of people that I met last year at the conference, which is interesting. But for those that follow or are interested in the cannabis industry, the the industry has shifted, kind of like the general economy. The cannabis industry is being impacted in some areas more than others, right? And it's interesting because it is such an industry that, in a lot of respects, it requires self-funding. That's why everybody can't get into the industry, right? Which is a problem as it relates to diversity and, you know, really having an inclusive culture here. The reality is there's not a whole lot of diversity even at this conference. There's a bit more than last year, especially as it relates to women. I learned after I arrived that Benzinga, you know, and hats off to them, and hats off to We Grow, who actually voiced the concern, right, and rose the issue of the lack of diversity last year with women. So We Grow is women's organization within the industry. And so they approached Benzinga and said, hey, you know, there's a lack of diversity at the conference. We need more representation. So they actually awarded some scholarships to come. So, you know, when you think of business conferences, again, it's a little bit different than being like working for a corporation or what have you. Like when you're an entrepreneur and you own your own business, like you're footing the wheel for all these things, right? To be able to come to these conferences, to be able to network, and to be able to play in, you know, some of these spaces. And there is an entry fee, and I don't take issue with that. I actually enjoy that there is kind of a price tag on it, because it kind of helps weed out like folks that are really serious, and that are really in a position to be able to really talk business with you or engage in your services, because I'm a service provider. I don't touch the flower, you know, per se with my business, but I'm able to offer my HR solutions to those that are in the business. And so that's why I come. You know, it also allows me to network with other vendors and folks that support the cannabis industry, and to build a network so that as I'm working with individuals that maybe need help in areas that's outside of my wheelhouse, I'm able to alley-oop and give them, you know, the ball and make sure that they're connected with somebody that's going to do right by them, and then also others that can help them with making sure that they're making, you know, some of the best decisions. Because as it relates to like some of the operations of the business, I'm definitely not an expert. I've had some exposure on a personal level with my ex, but even that is limited. Like, there were only certain aspects or parts of the business that he exposed me to, or, you know, kind of like let me, you know, in on or what have you. And so like, even like, we didn't get into the granular levels of, like, you know, like with growing, right? And just some of the substances, you know, like we would talk about just some of the irrigation and the money that was spent, you know, with setting up some of those systems and things like that, and perfecting them and streamlining them and things of that nature. But as it relates to like the chemical process and the chemicals, I have no idea. Like, that stuff, I couldn't even like really engage in much conversation with you around that aspect of it. But you know, I kind of came in, you know, to the conference wanting to really get a view of what state the industry was in, because in Michigan, you know, I'd had some conversations with, a few weeks ago, an employment attorney that you know, I kind of met through another network, which, you know, I kind of engage with them quite a bit because we operate in a similar space, and that has been how I've gotten some of my clients by way of employment attorneys. And so it was interesting, his take of the cannabis industry. It was really kind of doom and gloom. And then someone else that I actually ended up meeting up with for, I had tea or whatever, and, you know, met up for coffee or what have you. But he's in the insurance industry and providing insurances for businesses. And so, you know, he has a network of individuals in the cannabis industry too. And if I recall correctly, like, he kind of had like a doom and gloom outlook or story for the cannabis industry. So I will say that the sentiment, of course, is one that's hopeful. It's one of, you know, again, we know this industry is tough. It's built for the people that can tough it out, that can sustain. You know, we've gone through these downturns before. You know, the strong survive. It's been one of those sentiments, say the least. And more importantly, I think it's a perspective to kind of look at the rest of the economy. You know, it kind of looks bad, right? So it's a little bit of a shakeup and a sifting, you know, per se. And so in those times, it allows an opportunity for those that are strategic and those that are positioning themselves. And by positioning themselves, I'm meaning those that are making sure they have the resources, the actual dollars, the actual capital to be able to invest. Some of these individuals will be able to go, and they're going to be able to buy up some of these smaller companies that have to go out of business for little to nothing. And here's why. I'm about to give y'all some game right now, or not even game, but some good just business information. But the reason they're going to be able to do that is because some of these like companies, especially some of the smaller ones, they are so much in debt that their bottom line is negative, right? Their balance sheets are negative. And so some of them are under so much pressure, they just want to get up from under it, right? And so imagine that you're in a position where, you know, you have an influx of money, just an overflow of money, of dollars, to be able to invest, and buy businesses. And you go into a bank, or, into, hook up with some other investors or whatever, you might actually be able to, get some really good funding there, right? Because if you are already in the business and established, you should be able to immediately find some efficiencies, or maybe find some ways to maybe merge some of the processes so that you can create some cost savings, like across the organizations, as you merge, the new one into yours. And at least sustain for the next year or two. Because I personally have a strong belief that the industry actually is going to experience another boom. As we're coming off of this COVID pandemic, lockdowns, and everything of the sorts, mental health is increasingly becoming a major topic and issue for people. And it may not be that there's an increase in cases, but I think there's an increase of awareness and an increase of people feeling comfortable saying, hey, I need help. And many of us know and understand that it's not always the best alternative to go and take, a pill from the pharmaceutical company, a pill that your doctor prescribes to you. Oftentimes those things can have damaging effects. You hear horror stories of people getting addicted, to such pills, or feeling so lethargic and what have you. I'm not a proponent, personally, taking a whole lot of medicine prescribed or over the counter. I try to limit that. Like, I have to take some sinus and allergy medicine, but I'm even weaning myself off of that. I prefer to stick to more natural solutions and natural, substances that, can help, bring about the same results or even better results without all of the side effects associated with them. And so I say that to say, I think that people are going to be looking for natural solutions to help them manage with anxiety. Anxiety is up. It's up now, and it's going to increase. I've been saying it for over a year. This economy is shifting. This economy is in a recession. It is in a pullback, right? And again, those of us, thank God, those of us that are connected to our source, we know and we understand that God is our source, and that recession does not touch our house, right? But for the again, the global world, we are in such a time where, again, the economy is shifting. People are uncertain and unsure around monies and things like that, even the currency that we're going to be using, right, in the next year and what have you. And anxiety is high. Like, I've noticed, just en route and traveling and things like that, just, people kind of being uptight and just having this, just this tense nature about themselves. And perhaps I may even be a bit more sensitive to it, because I'll tell you, last week, I spent all of last week fasting and prayer deep. And so, perhaps maybe that's why, I'm picking up on it a lot more. But people are feeling pressure, even with some of these jobs. Like, I can tell I had to call Indeed because I'm working with a client, and then I had some postings for myself. And we had an issue where Indeed kind of shut down one of the accounts and what have you. And so they kind of have a disclaimer that, hey, we'll get back to you, and they requested some information, and the prompt that came up was that, hey, we'll get back to you in 24 to 48 hours. Well, it's been a few days now. So I called and I talked to the young lady on the phone that I was transferred to, and even I could tell she was under some pressure, and I asked her, I said, hey, what's the turnaround time usually on these types of incidents? She said, well, it's supposed to be 24 to 48 hours, but we just had massive layoffs. And so, and that's kind of breaking protocol, right? And professionalism. But I know she needed to express that and kind of get that out, right? And so when those things happen, and when companies begin to restructure, Those that are left behind, they usually have survivor's remorse, and they also are going to pick up the extra work that your coworker who's no longer here was doing previously. So they are feeling pressure too. And so I say all this to say, with all these different compounding issues and pressures just, piling on top of people, they are going to be seeking alternatives to relieve their stress, to simply be able to sleep at night. There's people that aren't able to sleep at night. They are under so much pressure, and their minds are just trying to figure what's going to be my next move. What am I going to do? Some people are putting themselves, I gotta be a little petty. Some people are putting themselves under their own pressure because they're worried about what you're doing and how you living. But that's another story. But again, there's some folks that are feeling the pressures of this world, right? That they can't escape. And so they're going to be looking for other alternatives. And I'm a proponent of cannabis. I think that it helps individuals. I've seen where it's helped individuals that have anxiety, and sleep apnea, who can't sleep and what have you. Yesterday I got a chance to sit and listen to Montel Williams, who I grew up on watching his show. I love Montel. And I remember, a few years before he ended the show, him announcing that he had multiple sclerosis. And so he told a story yesterday. He actually himself got addicted to the painkillers, the pain pills, and with him, he explained, with him being a celebrity, it was easy for him to just call up a doctor and say, hey, I need 20 Vicodin, no matter where he was traveling, around the world, and people would just give it to him because he was a celebrity. And, he realized it was a problem for himself, and actually he got cut off because they started an investigation. A paper trail started, and they started to see how many of these pills and things that he was getting, and he found himself under federal investigation. And so they cut him off, and so his doctor kind of whispered, kind of said, oh, but don't say I told you, but maybe look into this thing called cannabis. And so just to hear stories like that, and like Mike Tyson sharing his story too, about how, like, again, it's become a lifestyle for him and it changes him. And again, we all know, we see the news, right, with Mike Tyson, and he makes light of it. He kind of jokes. He's like, look, ask my wife and kids if they prefer me on the mic on cannabis or not. And I think everyone prefers the mic on cannabis, right? And I think that's a true thing. Like, I know for individuals in like the tech industry, especially those that like are coders and things like that, they're doing 1,000,001 things like at once. And so I know some of them, engage in things and substances to kind of help. Like, if there was one that I would prefer them to use, it would be cannabis. I have to say that, or shrooms, and that's for another story or topic of discussion, which maybe I'll come back Friday and kind of talk about that, because I'm going to the psychedelics conference. But I think that it has its place. I think that it's necessary. And I think that it's an opportunity to help a lot of people. And so I see opportunities for the cannabis industry to really grow, for those that are able to sustain and, kind of keep their businesses in order and make sure that they're staying on top of the latest technologies, make sure that they are engaging with other partners to understand where they can create some cost efficiencies. There's so much new technology that's coming out, like as it relates to like, the irrigation systems for growing, even the lighting. And some of these things are becoming more cost effective, right? Like, again, some of you guys have no idea. Like, we're not talking like somebody in the basement of their mom's house with a couple of potted plants here, growing, thinking they're doing something. Like, to actually have like a real cannabis like growing process and facility where you actually are a cultivator and you're cultivating, there's so much that goes into it. Like, the soil, like the research around like the soil, again, the lighting, throwing a couple $1,000s into, just paying for the lighting alone, for your grow system. then the irrigation, process. Because sometimes you're not going to be there 24/7, or you're not at a point where you're paying people to be there like around the clock and things like that. And so there's so much that goes into the process, right? But I think that, again, with technology, greater efficiencies will be created to be able to allow those in the industry to produce, at a greater rate. One of the things that needs to happen, though, especially for Michigan and the industry in Michigan, is like right now the wholesale prices have gone so low. So that's why some people are losing their bottoms. The bottoms falling out for their organizations, right? Because again, if you're kind of a smaller, company, in this game, it's hard to sustain, right? When you think of larger, kind of companies and things like that, and that's why it's important to have like other business people, other business partners. That's why I talk about HR being a business partner. If you want to evaluate your HR person, you need to test them as a business partner, right? Like if you're in HR, you should be coming to your clients and you should be providing not only HR and compliance solutions, but business solutions, right? You should be able to sit down with them and you should be able to look at their projections and help them develop a 3, a 5, a 10-year plan. Against that, that's where you can bake in, like, do we need to hire certain positions or expertise? Let's take a look at the facility that we're, renting out, or that we maybe own. Like, is this the best facility? Does it provide us with enough space? Or, are there opportunities to maybe move to something that can provide some cost savings here? And so I think that, again, those that can sustain during this period, they are going to come out on the other side great, right? And so, again, the conference in and of itself is always, great. It's always like great learning and what have you. Like I said, it does have a little bit of a different vibe this year. Although it is a bit larger in scope as far as the number of people. But yeah, that's kind of my, my summary. Unfortunately, it has been raining most of the time that I've been here in Miami. But I still have a great view of the ocean, so I can't complain about that. I have a great room. They really took care of me, and hooked me up. So it's sustained. I'll show you guys like the view. But this has been like great to just get up in the mornings and then just to be able to look out, even with it being all dreary and everything. Like I love the water. I just love it. So it's been an awesome time. And again, I'm going to go get myself ready. I have a reservation. And then I'll probably come back to this room and get myself pumped up so that I can go to this after party at Club Live and network some more and get myself ready for tomorrow for the next conference. So I just wanted to stop on and say what's up. Live from Miami, from my hotel room on the run tour. Hey, baby. And see you joining. But yeah, it's been cool. It's just been raining, doom and gloom since I've been here. But no, it's been a good day. A good last couple days and everything. But I just stopped on to say hi and give an update. I'll save this live so that people can go back and watch it. All right, bye-bye.